Everybody to the next edition of Empower Leaders. Today, I'm really happy to be continuing our series with old friends Cerulli, and I'd love to introduce Justina Deveikyte, who's Director of European Institutional at Cerulli. So Justina, welcome to Empower Leaders. Lovely to have you. So today we're going to talk a bit about responsible investing as a broader theme, and maybe kind of also look at direct indexing. So I've got a couple of questions for you. How do you think major asset managers are evolving their responsible investment propositions globally? Are you seeing any major trends?
Our research indicates that they are evolving at different pace, and it very much depends on the region that they are at. To date, US hasn't seen the same top-down government-led regulatory action as we saw in Europe. Nonetheless, all managers in the US place at least a moderate importance integrating ESG into investment decision-making process. But for many of them, those commitments still remain aspirational. Now, looking into Asia, Asian investors are gradually transitioning towards ESG, but our survey of Asia-Pacific investors indicate that around half of them still do not require ESG integration while they outsource portfolio management. Obviously, that had a significant impact on managers' product development initiatives. However, some leading investors in the region are really making stronger commitments, and that is obviously encouraging fund managers to strengthen and develop the ESG capabilities. Some local managers are looking to tap foreign managers' expertise when building new products. So we see strategic partnership opportunities in the countries such as Malaysia or Japan. Foreign managers could also grow the business in Asia by choosing to register the offshore funds in countries such as Hong Kong or Singapore. Now, looking into Europe, the picture is very different. All managers, everyone really has an ESG product, and ESG integration become more like a hygiene factor. Now they're thinking, what do they need to do to get to that next level? Reporting, obviously, it's a crucial aspect that will help them to move to that next level, as well as the ability to produce bespoke products, whether it is custom indices, climate solutions, or solutions around sustainable development goals. So that's really a direction of travel that we see at the moment in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot happening. So what do you think non-European asset managers need to know when they're looking for a foothold in this more sophisticated European market?
I would say there are a lot of things that they have to be aware of, but I would like to focus only on the most important ones. First of all, they have to know the regulations. There are still a lot of local nuances across different European markets. Secondly, they need to be aware of reporting needs. And finally, they have to understand really well what the expectations are and how those differ across those different markets. As an example, I would like to mention our recent project with US headquartered fund manager. So they were looking to expand their presence in the UK, and they asked us to engage with UK institutional investors and understand which messages resonates most. Midway the project, no surprise, they realized that ESG communication needs to be changed. Just because investors in UK no longer surprised by the fact that you integrate ESG. They want to know way more. They want to know, what is your process? What is your level of commitment? Are you part of UNPRI? Are you part of Net Zero Asset Manager Initiative? And also, will you be able to provide the data that they need to report on?
Great. So it really is, pretty substantial, isn't it? So where then do you see, kind of moving on from that, where do you see the highest global pockets of opportunities for ESG products, given we are moving beyond just ESG integration and everybody's
for sure.
More sophisticated?
I see a lot of opportunities, but I would like to mention just a few. First of all, direct indexing, custom indexing is really gaining momentum. So my colleagues in Boston recently published a white paper and also had a webinar on this topic. However, it is also gaining momentum in Europe, specifically in the Netherlands, as investors increasingly steering capital towards solutions that contribute to sustainable development goals. Some even made a pledge to double the investments into SDGs by 2025. Another area where we see a lot of opportunities is climate. I'm sure that's not surprising. A lot of investors across the US, Asia, and Europe are really increasingly committing to various climate solutions. They want to invest more in transition to cleaner economy. They also want to decarbonize the portfolios. But in Europe, I would say the key differentiator is that European investors really increasingly setting goals to cut carbon footprint of the portfolios. And this is an area where we see a lot of potential for strategic partnerships. Earlier this year, I had a conversation with one large UK insurance company, and they mentioned to me that they're looking for a partner who could help them to assess climate risks and understand how those risks impact the portfolio. Last not least, impact investing. Again, this is an area where we expect to see a lot of flows and assets as investors increasingly looking to drive capital towards positive outcomes, and we want to finance transition to the net zero global economy. So investors across the globe, but primarily in Europe, in countries such as Netherlands, France, and the Nordics are looking to invest more in green bonds, as well as social housing, as well as dark green or so-called Article 9 infrastructure products.
So those are some of the specifics about how ESG strategies and solutions are varying across different countries and challenges. You've really got to have that insight about who wants what in a very granular way. So what then do you think are going to be the new, given we've got COP26 around the corner, there is so much emphasis on really proving that your ESG strategies are working and it's not just greenwash. What do you think are going to be the big new themes and the big new strategies for institutional and retail investors in the future that are really going to be provable?
Sure. I would like to highlight two. So social themes for sure will be a big theme going forward. It's not really a new theme, I would say, but the coronavirus pandemic, social racial issues that made the headlines in 2020 obviously encouraged fund managers as well as investors to focus on those themes more. So we definitely expect to see more product development within that space. And secondly, biodiversity. More than 100 institutions across the globe already have signed up to support Task Force on Nature-related Financial Disclosure. And 30 of the members will be developing the framework, which will go live in 2023. But I expect the focus on biodiversity will start much earlier, and it will be primarily driven by French investors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so from next year, they will have to report on biodiversity risks on top of the climate risks. So obviously, we will see a lot of products and discussions around that starting from next year. As an example, AXA Insure just recently made a commitment to stop investing in companies or stop insuring companies that contribute to deforestation. And instead, they want to increase investments into companies that support sustainable forest management.
I mean, that's really interesting. Do you think that by one company saying that they're going to be supporting X strategy, that just pushes the companies that are interested in deforestation to other insurers? Do you think, or do you think it genuinely shifts the market?
I would say definitely it's a good example because deforestation poses a major biodiversity risk. So I think a lot of insurers will start focusing on that. And obviously, French insurers probably will be leading the way and showing us an example. Probably discussions on biodiversity a little bit still too early when it comes to Asia and US, but for sure, the Europe and French will be the leading.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So the big strategies for the future are going to be social related and biodiversity related, led by the French and their new regulations.
For sure.
Yeah. Justina, thank you so much for your time. You've given us a really good and insightful synopsis of where we are in ESG and the main trends for the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.